Now that I beat Warlord's Ruin as Prismatic Warlock, I'm going to be providing a couple builds that anyone can use to solo Warlord's Ruin as a Prismatic Warlock. For the first boss, I'm going to be using my builds called Crown of Dragons. What I'm going to be using is Nova Bomb, Phoenix Dive, Arcane Needle, and Storm Grenades. As for my X-Specs, I'm going to be using Lightning Surge and Feel the Void. If you don't know what these are or need a refresher, Lightning Surge. While sliding, activate your charged melee ability to blink forward, calling down lightning strikes that jolt targets as soon as you materialize. Oh, I can't say that word. I can't. Feel the Void. Defeat a target with any ability to activate Devour. Your Devour effects are improved, restoring additional health and grenade energy. As for my fragments, I'm going to be using Facet of Courage, Facet of Balance, Facet of Protection, Facet of Dominance, and Facet of Purpose. If you don't know what these fragments do or you need a refresher, Facet of Courage. Your Arc, Solar, and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted with Darkness debuffs. Darkness debuffs are considered Slow, Freeze, Sever, Suspend, and Unravel. I almost said Phallus. Oh my god, I almost said Phallus, bro. Facet of Balance. Rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. Facet of Protection. While surrounded by companions, you are more resistant to incoming damage. While transcendent, this effect is increased. Facet of Dominance. Your Void Grenades weaken targets, and your Arc Grenade jolts targets. Facet of Purpose. Picking up all overpower grants either Amplify, Restoration, Frost Armor, Woven Mail, or Overshield, based on the damage type of your equipped super. As for my weapons, I'm going to be using the Call, Subjective, and the Lament. For the role that I have for my Call is going to be Hard Launch, High Explosive Ordnance, Slice, and Vorpal Weapon. For Subjective, I'm going to be using Small Bore, Flare Magwell, Threat Detector, and Volt Shot. For my exotic weapon, I'm going to be using the Lament. If you don't know what the Lament is or you need a refresher, it has the exotic perk called Banshee's Wail. Banshee's Wail. Press and hold the question mark button to rev up the blade. It does increased damage and adds anti-barrier to all attacks. It gains stacks when dealing damage with revved attacks. And additional attacks increase the damage and damage resistance of heavy attacks. Lament also has an enchanted perk called Rev Consumption. Rev Consumption. Damaging a combatant heals the wielder. As for my exotic armor, I'm going to be using Crown of Tempest. If you don't know what Crown of Tempest is or you need a refresher, it has the exotic perk called Conduction Times. Conduction Times. Arc ability or Jolt final blows increase the recharge rate of your arc abilities and extend the duration of Storm Trance. For my helmet mods, I'm going to be using Arc Siphon, and if I had enough energy, I would have put a heavy ammo finder on it. For my arms, I'm going to be using Heavy Handed and Focusing Strike. For my chest, I'm going to be using Double Solar Resistance. If I had enough energy, I would have put an Arc Resistance too. For my boots, I'm going to be using Recuperation, Better Already, and Invigoration. As for my mark, my bond, not mark, I'm not tired. I'm going to be using Outreach, Powerful Attraction, and Font of Restoration. Now that I explained my build on what I'm going to be using, I'm going to show some gameplay so you can see how well it does in the dungeon and you can judge for yourself. For the second boss, I'm going to use my build called Captain SkullForge. As to what I'm going to be using, I'm going to be using Song of Flame, Phoenix Dive, Arcane Needle again, and Storm Grenades. For the aspects, I'm going to be using Helion and Feel the Void. If you don't know what these aspects are or need a refresher on what they do, Helion. Activate your class ability to summon a solar mortar that lobs flaming projectiles at distant targets. Targets that are damaged by the mortar are scorched. Feel the Void. Defeat a target with any ability to activate Devour. Your Devour effects are improved, restoring additional health and grenade energy. As for my fragments, I'm going to be using Facet of Dominance, Facet of Protection, Facet of Awakening, Facet of Hope, and Facet of Balance. If you don't know what these fragments are or you need a refresher, Facet of Dominance. Your Void Grenades weaken targets, and your Arc Grenades jolt targets. Facet of Protection. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. While Transcendent, this effect is increased. Facet of Awakening. Rapidly defeating targets with light or darkness damage, or super final blows generate an elemental pickup of the matching damage type. For fire sprites, you are granted more grenade energy. For iconic traces, you are granted more ability energy. For Void Breach, you are granted more class ability energy. And for Stasis Shards, you restore more melee energy. Facet of Hope. When you have an elemental buff, your class ability regenerates more quickly. Light buffs are considered Amplified, Pure, Radiant, Restoration, Devour, Invisibility, and Overshield. Darkness buffs are considered Frost Armor and Woven Mail. Facet of Balance. Rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. For my weapons, I'm going to be using the Call again, Parabellum, and Galley. The role I'm going to be using on my Call is going to be Car Launched, High Explosive Ordnance, Slice, and Vorpal. For Parabellum, I'm going to be having Corkscrew Rifling, Alloy Magazine, Heel Clip, and Deconstruct. As for my exotic weapon, I'm going to be using Gallahorn. If you don't know what Gallahorn is or you need a refresher, it has the exotic perk called Wolfpack Rounds. Wolfpack Rounds. Rounds fire split into tracking cluster missiles upon detonation. It also has an intrinsic perk called Pack Hunter. Pack Hunter. Gain increased handling and reload speed when standing near allies. Firing this weapon also grants Wolfpack rounds to nearby allies. Wielding non-exotic rocket launchers. This isn't going to be really useful for us since we're solo, but the Catalyst is. And if you don't know what the exotic Catalyst does for Gallahorn, it just increases the magazine really, and it makes the Wolfpack rounds spawn faster. For my exotic armor, I'm going to be using Getaway Artist. If you don't know what Getaway Artist is or need a refresher, it has an exotic perk called Dynamic Duel. Dynamic Duel. Press and hold the grenade button to convert your arc grenade into an arc soul and become amplified. The arc soul functions as an autonomous turret. For my helmet mods, I'm going to be using Strand Siphon and Heavy Ammo Finder. As for my arms, I'm going to be using Firepower and Solar Loader. For the chest piece, I'm going to be using double Void Resistance and 1 Arc Resistance. For my boots, I'm gonna be using Recuperation, Better Already, and Innovation. As for my bond, I'm gonna be using Fonta Restoration, Powerful Attraction, and Outreach. Now that I explained my build, Captain SkullForge, we'll get into some gameplay so you can see how well it does in the dungeon. For the final boss, I'm going to be using Captain SkullForge again, but with a slightly different setup. What I'm going to be using for Captain SkullForge this time is Needle Storm, Phoenix Dive again, Arc Needle, and Storm Grenades. As for my aspects, I'm going to be using Feel the Void and Helion again. As for my fragments, I'm going to be using Facet of Dominance, Facet of Protection, Facet of Awakening, Facet of Hope, and Facet of Balance. If you don't know what these fragments do or need a refresher, Facet of Dominance. Your Void Grenades weaken targets, and your Arc Grenades jolt targets. Facet of Protection. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. While Transcendent, this effect is increased. Facet of Awakening. Rapidly defeating targets with light or darkness damage, or Super Final Blows generates an elemental pickup of a matching damage type. Facet of Hope. While you have an elemental buff, your class ability regenerates more quickly. Facet of Balance. Rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. As for my weapons, I'm going to be using Scatter Signal, Parabellum again, and Leviathan's Breath. For the role that I have for Scatter Signal, it's going to be Poly Rifling, Liquid Coils, Overflow, and Control Burst. For Parabellum, it's going to be Corkscrew Rifling, Alloy Magazine, Heel Clip, and Deconstruct. As for my Zarek weapon, I'm going to be using Leviathan's Breath. If you don't know what Leviathan Breath is or need a refresher, it has a Zarek perk called Big Game Hunter. Big Game Hunter fires a massive heavily bolt that stuns unshielded combatants, very strong against unstoppable champs. It also has an intrinsic perk called Levy Sigh. When fully drawn, this bolt creates a large concussive blast that knocks combatant back and makes them volatile. It also has an exotic catalyst, which increases the amount of arrows you can hold, and it decreases draw time after every precision hit. As for my exotic armor, I'm going to be using Getaway Artist again. If you don't know what Getaway Artist is or need a refresher, it has an exotic perk called Dynamic Duel. Dynamic Duel. Press and hold your grenade button to convert your arc grenade into an arc soul and become amplified. The Arc Soul functions as an autonomous turret. For my helmet, I'm going to be using Solar Siphon and Heavy Ammo Finder. For my arms, I'm going to be using Firepower and Solar Loader. For my chest, I'm going to be using double Void Resistance and an Arc Resistance. For my boots, I'm going to be using Recuperation and a Void Weapon Surge. As for my bonds, I'm going to be using Type Dilation and Fonta Restoration. Well, that's it for Prismatic Warlock. I'm gonna be working on Prismatic Hunter next. So if this video was helpful, consider liking, sharing, or even subscribing. Until then, peace.